Good afternoon, YouTubers. It's Sunday today. It's Sunday the 10th of March, 2024. And in the news today, we have seen there's things we haven't seen. There's apparently Buckingham Palace got ram-raided last night. Someone crashed a vehicle into the gates, and I've been to Buckingham Palace. Okay, I've been there. And I've seen that right behind those gates they've got these huge hydraulic rams that lift right up out of the concrete. So anyone crashing through those gates will come to an abrupt halt. Even if you're driving a huge lorry or something like that. I mean, these things will stop. An armoured vehicle, I would imagine, they look pretty substantial to me. And then people will emerge from wherever and shoot you, if you anyway, I don't know what happened. Someone crashed a vehicle at 2 o'clock in the morning into these gates, fractured the gates, and the police swarmed out and arrested them. I don't know any further than that because there's nothing on the UK media, there's nothing on Sky News, there's nothing. Fiona read about it in the Daily Mail. So there you go, get the news first from the Daily Mail. Enough about that. The other thing in the news today was the Bluebird, Donald Campbell's what was it? T7, was it? Just washed my hair, so it's all misty. The Bluebird, the actual high-speed boat that Donald Campbell tried to break his own record with at Coniston Water in 1967, has finally returned to the museum at Coniston. I say returned, it's never been there, has it? That was the agreement all along. So there was big news, it's there, finally, because this museum raised over £1 million to build this extension, the Bluebird extension on their museum. The museum's been there since 1901, I think, something like that. And going back to when was it? I don't know, long time ago, 34 years after 1967 anyway, divers discovered the wreck because Campbell was killed. His boat took off, the front came up, he was doing about 300 miles an hour and the front came up and it flipped over, boom, and that was it, it sank, and his body, Donald Campbell's body, was not recovered. Okay, it sank, and they couldn't find the boat either. Anyway, years and years later, 34 years later, the boat's recovered. It's recovered. Donald Campbell's body was found with the boat, and that was buried in the local cemetery in near Coniston somewhere. And anyway, cut a long story short, the people that own the boat, because the boat still has an owner, even though it's on the bottom, it's been there for years. The people who owned the boat donated it to the Ruskin Museum, said there, you can have it. So obviously there's a lot of expense and volunteers and things involved because it was all a big famous thing. Anthony Hopkins made a film about it in 1988 called Across the Water. You can look that one up. It's a true story and it actually shows the real crash at the end. And you can just Google Donald Campbell and Bluebird, Coniston Water, which is in the Lake District. And I remember it. I was only a child at the time. I was born in 61, so in 67 I'd be about 6 years old, and I can remember my dad going on and on about it. And so I do remember it. I remember it well. I don't remember Malcolm Campbell. I think that was his father. He got killed as well, trying to beat some record, I think. But I do remember Donald Campbell. Donald Campbell was the son, wasn't he? And he died in the crash. Anyway, cut a long story short, they recovered the boat from the water. The owners had donated it to the Ruskin Museum in Coniston, so it is their property. Now, an agreement was made with this guy. I've got his name here. And I saw the documentary. Bill Smith and the Bluebird project. Right, well, Bill Smith, I saw the documentary about this, and this guy worked tremendously, did put a tremendous amount of effort in. He was a diver, he recovered the boat, the body, he recovered everything, and they signed an agreement that they would restore the boat. and when it was restored, they'd give it back to the museum. That was the deal, so I'm led to believe. Anyway, I watched the documentary about it. It was, good 5 years ago now. And they actually got it in running order, and they put it on a truck. They took it to, not to Coniston, to somewhere in Scotland near the Isle of Bute. And they test drove it. They rode it on the lake. They actually fired it up, and I said, whoa, that's well dodgy. Don't be doing that. No. But they limited it to about 150 miles an hour. I thought, this is the actual death trap that killed Donald Campbell, right? It was such a bad design of boat. I mean, back in the day, they just put jet engines in everything and just took off. And don't forget, Donald Campbell's body was in the boat for 34 years on the bottom of Lake Coniston. So there's no way I'd get in it. No way I'd even sit in it, never mind driving at 100 miles an hour on some lock somewhere. No. Anyway, they roared up and down. I thought, that's a bad idea. Anyway, they put it back on the trailer, took it back to Hull. I think that the guy's based in Hull. But to be fair to the guy, he has put in thousands and thousands of hours and his own money, and he's got volunteers, and they've done a fantastic job restoring this boat, which is an iconic piece of British history for sure. And then they fell out with the museum. And they decided to keep the boat. Well, I think that's the gist of it. And the museum was arguing. It finished up, the museum had to take them to court. Big legal process, I think that was 2023. And they've just had the court ruling, yes, you must give the boat back to the museum. So they've gone down, they've got the boat, put it on a trailer, and they've taken it. It's finally arrived in the museum. And it's a great shame that Bill Smith and the Ruskin Museum fell out, because the guy, give credit where it's due, he did a fantastic job, for sure. And it is a great shame that people can't, because I think the original plan was it was going to be in the museum for most of the year, and in the summer, this guy, Bill Smith, was going to be allowed to run it up and down the lake at Coniston, which I personally think is a huge mistake. But that's just my opinion. I mean, you might think differently. But that's all gone to pot now. Maybe they have plans to run it on the lake. I don't know. But personally, my own personal feelings are that it's in the museum. It should stay there. Really, it should stay there, because it's too valuable to risk crashing it. It's too valuable to risk killing someone in it. And it is a piece of iconic history, and it should just stay in a museum where people can come and see it and enjoy it. We've seen video footage of it on the lake in Scotland, and there's no reason that it should go back out. And I'll tell you why I think it's a really, really bad design, okay? It's a death trap. And that is because even though it's a boat, I mean, the whole purpose of it was to break the boat speed record. And this is going back to the 1960s, so no one had access to jet engines unless you were really rich. So Campbell obviously had a few bob about him, and he already had sponsors and things, and I believe he had an E-Type Jaguar in the film. So only rich people had them in the 60s. I can tell you, my dad drove a little Morris 1100, remember them? And they just wanted to thunder along at great speed and break records and be champions, because people do that sort of thing. They all want to be the fastest and the best at whatever they do. It's natural competition you get between people. This is what F1 racing's all about. Horse racing, they all want to be first, they want to be the fastest, they want to be the best. And you can't knock him for that, because that's what he wanted to do, and he had the money and he did it. But there wasn't a lot of thought went into it, the design, I don't think, because what you've actually got is an aeroplane engine in a boat, right? And you're going to thunder along the water, and all you've got to control it is the steering wheel, which is connected to a little tiny rudder which is in the water. And don't forget, even though it is a boat and it is floating, it's thundering along at 300 miles an hour, so most of the boat is actually flying through the air, not the water, right? And it's got this tiny little rudder at the back. And what happened is the wind got under the front of the boat, So it literally went up in the air, flipped over a few times, and wallop, and that was it. It just broke apart, destroyed, and Campbell was killed. Now, as a pilot, I'm thinking to myself, well, it should have had control surfaces. It shouldn't have had a little stupid water rudder. It must have had one as well, but you will have had to have had aircraft controls. So you've got pitch control as you're going through the air. So you know that nose comes up, you can correct it, you can push it back down again. It would have to have stabilizers like ailerons. Only small ones, doesn't have to be. You don't want it to go flying. You just want to have control over the craft as it's thundering along. And of course, you've got an air rudder as well as the water rudder. So you'd have all three of those: your pitch and roll. Okay, so if you've got that, you can open that throttle as wide as you want, and you can go as fast as you want. And the judges could say, well, it's an aircraft. Well, it's not. It's a boat. It's never designed to fly. But it is designed to be controlled through the air, because the air is the one medium that you are thundering through, you're travelling through, really not the water. So you have to have air controls to achieve these great speeds. Now, all right, if he hit a bit of a wave, a bit of a ripple, and he bounced and he went into the air, he's got control of it. He can throttle back, he can stabilise it, and he can bring it back down, and it'll skid along on the water again. And they could say, well, no, you left the water, you went flying, so we're disqualifying that run, so you've got to go and do it all again. So the pilot has got to keep the boat on the water at the speed that he's trying to break the record of, whatever. So that's why I think that the Bluebird was a bad design, because it had no air control, no stabilizers, nothing, no pitch control, no yaw, no roll, nothing. All it had was one little steady air rudder. So the moment that nose goes up, you've had it. There's nothing you can do. You've got no control over it at all. That's where it failed, and it killed Donald Campbell, and I think it would kill someone else who tried to beat Campbell's record in it. And it's only a matter of time. If you take it out and you say, right, the limit's 150 miles an hour on Coniston water, and they're there. I mean, imagine they make up with Bill Smith again, and they'll kiss and make up, and everyone's friends again. And they take it up to 150, they'll make a documentary about it, they'll all be cheering and clapping, isn't it marvellous, and they'll be put it back in the museum again for the rest of the year. It's a matter of time, isn't it, before someone says, well, let's try and go a bit faster. And you see what's going to happen, don't you? Eventually someone is going to get killed again, and we're going to lose the boat for the second time. So that's why I believe it should stay in the museum. What do you think? What are your thoughts and opinions on the Bluebird? Do you think what I am saying about control surfaces has any credence, or do you think I'm just an idiot? Please leave your comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.